Hey guys, how's it going? It's Danconia and welcome back to the Overwatch League Roundup 2020 Summer Showdown APAC results. So, things have been rather weird in, well, not both of our regions, I couldn't say that, but the APAC region hasn't been perhaps as close as some people would have thought by the scorelines, and NA's been all over the place. But we're going to take a look at the APAC region, the Asia Pacific region today, where we saw a lot of interesting stuff going on, and we had a few questions. Shanghai came in as top seed, so they obviously got the bye, but would Seoul Dynasty turn up, considering they turned up at the May Melee, but have been terrible in the regular season? Will Guangzhou Charge be able to continue their good form? Would New York or Hangzhou be able to get through? And would Chengdu do anything? That was the question. But yeah, this was super duper interesting. We started off with Chengdu Hunters taking on the Guangzhou Charge, and this was a matchup that was very, very, well, it wasn't a very good matchup, was it? Let's be honest. Chengdu Hunters do not have the quality to compete with this Guangzhou Charge squad. It's quite obvious that they don't have the quality. Guangzhou Charge, I think a lot of people have been sleeping on them because a lot of their results have been close, but they have beaten some very big teams, i.e. the New York Excelsior being one of them. And this Charge squad is not to be taken lightly. They get a 2-0 on Busan. It's rather more close on King's Row with a 4-3 to the Charge, and then a 3-2 on Temple of Anubis would see the Charge run out 3-0 winners over the Chengdu Hunters and proceed to the semi-finals. They didn't have to do this last time in the May Melee because the Charge got the number 1 seed, and so they got that bye. But Charge looked good, and much better than the Chengdu Hunters could ever cope with. Chengdu did start to throw some weird looks. We saw the Junkrat on defense of a Temple of Anubis, but none of it really worked, and Chengdu still look like they've got a lot of problems with ult usage, with communication, and for a team that's been together for a long while, you would expect this sort of thing to not be occurring right now, which is really, really not good, is it, really, to be quite honest. And I hope that Chengdu sort this out. They are really looking down the abyss of a very, very bad season. And we thought Chengdu might be a little bit of, at least a little bit surprising, but they haven't even been the surprising catch you off guard Chengdu that they used to be. They are just not good anymore, which is unfortunate. But after this, we went to the Seoul Dynasty taking on the London Spitfire. This is the 5th seed versus the 4th seed. So this was a match we hadn't seen all season. And this was basically a lot of old London versus the new look London. And how would this match up? London had been on a good run of form. Seoul Dynasty had been trash. But the thing is, this was Seoul Dynasty in the regular season. And it's starting to grate on me a lot that the Seoul Dynasty seem to turn up in these tournaments but have some sort of disregard or just can't be bothered to take the regular season games seriously enough to actually do well on them. This Seoul Dynasty squad, with the play we see at times, especially during these tournaments, we saw it in the May Melee against Shanghai as well, and Guangzhou, with the play that they put out in these tournaments, they could be one of the best, if not the best teams in this APAC region, if not the league. And for some reason in the regular season matches, they just don't do it. They just don't play to this standard. Why? It is stupid, to be quite honest with you. Seoul Dynasty get a 3-1 victory over the London Spitfire. London, this wasn't London playing badly. I've seen London play a lot worse than this season. One or two weird things that we saw from London is the fact that we didn't see a massive amount of Babel, which was weird considering we've seen a lot of Babel recently, and we've seen quite a bit of Jihoon recently. And especially against the Hangzhou Spark, London looked like they had that better aggressive, they looked like they could judge whether to go in or not much better, and had that balance right with Jihoon in the lineup, and throughout this match we saw JMac. So London kind of reverted a little bit and went back a couple of weeks, which I don't think was a brilliant look for them. But by no means was this London absolutely trash. This was Seoul Dynasty definitely turning up. Profit was crazy on some of these maps, and it just annoys me. It really annoys me that this Seoul Dynasty squad for some reason can't turn up in the regular season but can play like this in these tournaments. It's very frustrating, and it must be really frustrating for Seoul Dynasty fans. That's all I can say. But our final match was the New York Excelsior taking on the Hangzhou Spark, or the final match of the quarterfinals, I should say. And this I was expecting to be rather darn close. Hangzhou Spark had been improving, although they had an absolutely terrible week last week. New York Excelsior, it's kind of been up and down for them. But this wasn't close. This was New York Excelsior running out 3-0 winners, getting a 2-0 on Nepal, getting a 1-0 on Hollywood, full holding the Hangzhou Spark, and although Volskaya was a 4-3, so it was much closer, New York Excelsior were constantly one step ahead of this Hangzhou Spark squad. I had question marks over Architect, which I don't think we would say very often, Godsby as well. They didn't live up to what they had been, and it's unfortunate because a couple of weeks ago we were looking at this Hangzhou Spark squad and saying, wow, this Hangzhou Spark squad is improving. This is going to be a good team. Remember that they beat the New York Excelsior 3-2 the other day. But they seem to have gone backwards, which is worrying. Whether it is the slight shift in meta towards Genji that is causing the issue, and the Ash Tracer was more their comfort zone, it could be that, but it's disappointing. It's disappointing. And hopefully Hangzhou Spark can work it out, but this is a good win for the New York Excelsior, that's without a doubt. So this means that we went into the semi-finals with some rather interesting matchups. Shanghai Dragons taking on the Seoul Dynasty and Guangzhou Charge taking on the New York Excelsior. So let's start off with the Shanghai Dragons taking on Seoul then. Now this was a rematch of the Melee final, which was one of the best matches of Overwatch we've ever seen. I don't think we've ever seen a 7-mapper at this level, a 7-map reverse sweep, which is what Shanghai Dragons achieved in that Melee final, with Seoul Dynasty going up 3-0 and then Shanghai Dragons getting a 4-3 victory. So we all expected this to be a massive blockbuster, and it really, well, wasn't in some respects. Now, it's a 2-0 for Shanghai on Ilios, it's a 3-2, so it's much closer on King's Road, but it still goes in the favour of Shanghai. We then get a draw on Volskaya, which ends 2-2, and then we get a 4-3 victory on Watchpoint Gibraltar for the Shanghai Dragons, and they seal out a 3-0 victory over the Seoul Dynasty, firmly knocking the Dynasty side out of this Summer Showdown. And it's not as close as it was before. And Shanghai look good, but there were also some cracks maybe with the Shanghai squad that we weren't so sure about. And they obviously proceeded on to the final, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but this Seoul Dynasty squad, I hope they're not relying on wins from tournaments, because it's rough if they are, I'm not going to lie. And it's a shame. I thought this match would be very, very close. I thought either of which team, either Seoul Dynasty or London Spitfire coming in against the Shanghai Dragons, I thought they would make it really close. But it turns out Shanghai will just they had too much quality on the day. And we didn't see the quality from Profit and from Fitz against Shanghai that we saw against London. Now, whether that is because they had much more prep time for the London match, I don't know. But it wasn't great. And it still supports the claim that Seoul are not a top team in APAC, and they are not a top team in this league right now. They are firmly middle of the pack. They cannot compete with the likes of Shanghai right now. And the results back this up. So there's still work to be done at the Seoul Dynasty. And one thing that has kind of caught my eye is Slime on the Brigitte is not great. I don't think he's the best Brigitte. Put it that way. We've seen a lot of Slime's Brigitte during this tournament. Obviously, when Brigitte was extremely meta, Slime wasn't playing the Brigitte because he was playing the Lucio, because this was during GOATS, and it was Hacksaw playing the Brigitte. So, yeah, I think that's something that the Seoul Dynasty could work on. And also, they went back to Jester Marvel, which, yeah, it's a shame because Michelle looked really good last week, you know. But the other semi-final was the New York Excelsior taking on the Guangzhou Charge. Now, this was a tough one to call for me. I didn't know who would run out here. Guangzhou Charge looked really good against Chengdu. New York looked really good against the Hangzhou Spark. But both teams had looked good throughout the regular season, but Guangzhou Charge obviously coming with a better record. And Guangzhou Charge got a narrow 3-2 victory over New York Excelsior in the regular season just last week. So, this was an interesting one. On Ilios, it goes 2-0 to the Guangzhou Charge. On Blizzard World, it goes 3-2 to the Guangzhou Charge. And on Hanamura, it goes 1-0 to the Guangzhou Charge. and Guangzhou Charge run out 3-0 winners. They were quite clearly the better team. And the New York Excelsior got out-supported, out-tanked, and out-DPS'd. All around, Guangzhou Charge were the better team here, which is a shame. I thought this was going to be a real blockbuster close match, and it wasn't. It was Guangzhou Charge clearly demonstrating that New York cannot compete with this Charge side right now. Krong has been fantastic once again, but a player to massively highlight for the Guangzhou Charge is Eileen, because Eileen's Genji has been nasty. But yeah, this was quite clearly Guangzhou Charge in the driving seat, and stuff to work on, New York. Stuff to work on. Not gonna lie, the tank line could not match Rio and Krong, and that's a worrying thing when we're talking about Mano and Hotba here. They're not shabby, you know. But this set up a final between Shanghai Dragons and the Guangzhou Charge. Most people would call this the two best teams in APAC right now, and this is incredibly interesting. Incredibly interesting. So the Guangzhou Charge had looked really good. Shanghai Dragons had looked really good. But Guangzhou Charge, they're kind of forced to, but they have a very consistent roster. Shanghai Dragons tend to mess around with a few things. And in this one, we saw DM in instead of Lip a lot of the time. And we will get onto that in a minute. But what we do see is on Ilios, Guangzhou Charge take the 2-0, although both points went 99-99. So it was super close. And Guangzhou Charge also got the 3-2 victory on Hollywood to take a 2-0 lead. And then they get a 2-1 victory on Temple of Anubis, and they take a 3-0 lead. And we all know where this is going, because like last time out Melee, Shanghai Dragons were 3-0 down. But the difference here is when they were 3-0 down to Seoul in the Melee, they hadn't played Fearless, they played Stand 1. So they subbed in Fearless and Lip to take out DM and Stand 1 against Seoul. In this time around, they subbed out DM and they put in Lip because they already had Fearless in. Things start to turn around. 3-1 victory on Watchpoint Gibraltar and a 2-1 victory on Busan would see Shanghai claw it back to 3-2. And all of a sudden it's looking good. But Shanghai then subbed Lip out and put DM back in. And DM just couldn't compete with Happy, and he was constantly getting pressured out by Eileen. And the tank battle was fairly evenly matched. Fearless looked good. He actually looked good, especially on the Winston. On Watchpoint Gibraltar, he was darn good. He was probably the best main tank I've seen this weekend from APAC. So yeah, there is that. But I think Krong won the off-tank battle. The supports for Guangzhou Charge have been nutty. He's been absolutely nutty, especially Shu, during this weekend. But DM was getting outplayed a lot of the time. Lip looked much better. I don't know why they subbed him out, but this meant on Blizzard World, it went 2-1 to the Guangzhou Charge, meaning that Guangzhou Charge win this one 4-2 and take home the championship trophy for APAC, or there is no trophy, but take home the championship for APAC for the Summer Showdown, knocking Shanghai Dragons off of their perch. So, this is super interesting. And Guangzhou Charge, they're not bad for their win there. And I think a lot of people will still say, well, Shanghai Dragons are still the best team, blah, 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 blah. But, I don't know. I think that was a coaching mistake. Because they shouldn't have subbed DM back in. They should have just stuck with Lip, to be quite honest. Lip is incredibly good. He's got incredibly varied hero pool. We've seen Lip and Fleda play alongside each other all the time, and they've been great. But some things to notice. Shanghai, I think, had the better main tank, but Guangzhou had the better off tank, had the better supports, and Eileen versus Fleta on the Genji mostly. Eileen got the better value than Fleta. Eileen, best Genji in this region, without a doubt, during this tournament. And he was getting more value without Blade. Fleta was inconsistent. And so I think that's where we see this match run out. And a lot of people were saying at 3-0 down or the Shanghai Dragons are going to reverse sweep. This is the Shanghai Dragons doing Shanghai Dragons. But I honestly didn't believe it because you could see the way in which those teams were playing. You could see the player-by-player matchups, and just Guangzhou Charge were winning them. You could quite clearly see it. Eileen has been phenomenal for the Guangzhou Charge during this week, and he's got to be one of the best players, one of the most outstanding APAC players out of this tournament. Krong has been fantastic as well. Shu also, Guangzhou Charge are very deserving of their title as Summer Showdown champions in APAC, and the sky's the limit. This Guangzhou Charge squad is on quite a run in terms of wins. Doesn't matter how you get them, whether they're 3-2, 3-0, 3-1, 4-2, whatever. As long as you get those wins, you're going up the league. They are now 4th place in the league, in the overall standings. That is automatic qualification for playoffs. Guangzhou Charge are improving. Can anyone stop them? Shanghai Dragons maybe, but I don't see it from New York Excelsior or anyone else. But that is your round out for the APAC region. Tomorrow we will take a look at the North American region, which has been interesting. Yeah, interesting. And there'll be 2 different Team of the Weeks. There'll be one APAC Team of the Week and one NA Team of the Week, because there's so much quality, let's divide it up. I think that's the best course of action. But for now, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, give it a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next video. See you then.